Welcome to the Red-Headed Crafter. My name is Ashley and I'm super happy you're here. In today's video, we will be working on some spring DIYs using mostly Dollar Tree items. I would like to start out first though with a disclaimer. I used plaster of Paris in the first project. It was late and I left everything on my craft table. It was shut, but it was up there. And I went to bed, I fall asleep. Next thing I know, I'm waking up. There's white smoke in the living room. I jump out of bed. I'm thinking fire. I'm yelling, honey, wake up. I get to the living room. I stop dead in my tracks. There is a big cloud, dust-filled cloud of white smoke in my living room. And my living room floor is covered in white powder. I dog sit on the weekends for my son. So I had his two dogs and my dog. They're all three puppies, and they had a heyday in the plaster of Paris. There's 4 hours to clean up. It was just a mess. It was everywhere. Anyhow, that happened. But let's get into the crafting. In today's first DIY, we will be using a couple of tags I'm going to repurpose. Those come from the Dollar Tree, and a printable I will link in the description box below. I started off by tracing that tag and cutting out my image. Then I mixed up some Hello Hobby white chalk paint with some of that plaster of Paris I already mentioned. Put that stuff up when you're done. And I'm going to just mix this up until I get the consistency of pudding. After that, I'm going to take an old brush and get that paint on there. I wanted this to have the look of like old chippy paint. Next, I'm just going to do an even layer of Mod Podge and then stick that printable right on down and get all those air bubbles and wrinkles out. Once that's dry, then go ahead and take some sandpaper and sand in a downward motion along the edge to get a nice clean edge. After that, I distressed everything with some ink Waverly chalk paint, paying close attention to those corners. I then took some of this chicken wire ribbon and wrapped it around the tag that's on the left, and then used hot glue to tack it down. I am then going to line up those little holes there and use my old glue gun. Since my new one isn't working, I'm going to have to return it, and hot glue those tags down. Then I'm going to take this jute, put a little hot glue on the end to stop it from raveling while I put it through the hole. Cut that off and then put a little piece of painter's tape and feed a couple of beads down. Then I'm going to tie a knot, and I cut mine off. Don't do that if you want a way to hang it. I ruined it. But anyway, I made a messy bow out of those little different types of ribbon, and then a jute twine bow, and fed a couple of beads. Then I took my tape off and tied a knot on the ends so my beads couldn't fall off. I used a pair of needle nose pliers to help me pull that jute tight so the knot doesn't come undone. Next, I'm going to take a strip of fabric and hot glue it together and hot glue a tail on it as well as tie it on with a piece of jute. But I end up cutting that tail off, so you don't need to waste your time, and you really don't need this fabric. I just wanted to incorporate those colors that was in the fabric into my kitchen. I'm going to cut off that excess jute and then go ahead and assemble the bow with some hot glue. I'm going to glue the messy bow down to that fabric and then glue the jute bow to the messy bow and then the button to the middle of the bow. After that, we can go ahead and glue that bow onto our tag using some hot glue. And I did cut that tail off, and here's how it turned out. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. I want you guys to know that you guys can make some awesome DIYs and high-end looking home decor using printables. So this video is using printables, no Cricut required. Alright, this project I'm going to use this black frame and remove everything, the jute, the backing, and all. Then we're going to sand down this frame so our chalk paint will stick. And then I'm just going to give it a coat of ink Waverly chalk paint so I can have that matte finish. After that's dry, I'm going to use a new technique. I'm just going to dab this celery colored chalk paint onto this craft stick and then rub it down my frame. Just keep doing this by dabbing on the paint and then rubbing that craft stick along the frame. You're going to do the front of the frame, the sides, all of it, so it all looks cohesive. This makes the frame look really old and distressed looking. I loved it. It turned out so pretty. Next, I'm going to dry that, and then I'm going to stick my printable down to the backing with some glue dots so I can change it out if I want. And this is just the definition of spring. I thought it was so pretty. Then we're going to replace that backing and add some little sprigs of lavender to each corner diagonal from each other. Once I think it looks good, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of hot glue to glue those floral pieces in place. And that's it. This is how it turned out. It's so pretty, you guys. I loved it. It was just beautiful. The next DIY will be making a wreath, and I don't post a lot of DIYs making wreaths because I'm brand new at it and I don't feel right demonstrating how to make a wreath when I don't know how to make one. But this one turned out very pretty. I love these flowers. They're really light pink and peachy color. They came from Walmart. I'm just going to add the flowers down the side of the wreath form and add some different types of greenery, eucalyptus, boxwood, and those flowers. Then I'm going to attach them using zip ties. Just attach the zip ties wherever you feel like you need more support. Then you're going to cut off that excess zip tie, and that's about it. Once you get all of your greenery and florals in place using those zip ties, we're going to make a little plaque using this free printable. I will link in the description box below. I'm going to take this plaque from Walmart, give it a nice coat of white chalk paint from Rust-Oleum. I'm out of Waverly chalk paint. I gotta go get some more. And then we're going to let that dry and add our printable. Then I'm going to cut down my printable to where it will fit on my plaque nicely. And then I'm going to flip it over and shade the back of it with a pencil. That will allow us to flip it back over and trace the image onto our plaque. I'm just going to use some painter's tape to keep that paper in place while I trace it. This stylus that I'm going to use to trace the wording came from Dollar Tree, and it worked really well. You can see here how the image is transferring onto that white plaque. Once we're done tracing, then we're going to go ahead and use a black Sharpie or a black marker or a fine tip paintbrush and black paint to darken up that wording. Once you're done, this is what it will look like. I did lose some footage, but I just distressed it using ink Waverly chalk paint with this little sponge brush, and that's about it. I sanded it down, and this is how it turns out. Next, I started working on a bow for the bottom of our wreath. I wrapped some burlap over on itself a couple of times, made a slit in the middle, and then fastened it with a zip tie. Using a pair of needle nose pliers, I tightened that zip tie up and then cut the excess off. Here is how to make a finger bow. Now this is a little bit thick of a ribbon, but it did work. So put that tail in between your thumb and pointer finger. Then make a peace sign and wrap that ribbon right around that peace sign. Wrap it around, that's all you do. Put the tail of the ribbon up in between. You can see, it's hard to explain. Here's slow motion. Pull your ribbon in between those two fingers. That's where you're gonna put your tail to tighten it. Pull the tail of that ribbon up through your two fingers on the very bottom. You can see. You can start to see your bow forming. Just bring it over the top of your bow. See? Just bring it up over the top. And then it's very hard for me to explain this. But you're just going to take that tail and put it up through your thumb and pointer finger. Just take the end of it and put it up in there. Do not put it underneath the tail, just in between the tail and what will be your left side of your bow. And you're gonna just pull it and pull and pull and pull until you get it tightened, and that forms your two tails and your bow. Once you get that tight enough, you're going to take the bow off of your fingers, fluff it up, and then pull over your tail. And that is how you do the finger bow. It's much easier with twine, but I wanted to use this ribbon. Next, I'm going to take another finger bow, just a smaller version, and I'm going to add that to the top of the bigger one. I'm going to leave that at a slant and dovetail the bigger bows, and also make a tail for the burlap, dovetail it, and then we're going to put it all together with some hot glue and twine. I'm going to hot glue that smaller bow to the bigger bow, and then we're going to tie the tail onto the burlap bow because I forgot to do it when I done the zip tie. Once I get that twine tied in a double knot, I'm going to go ahead and add the other bow as well. Then you're going to go ahead and fluff everything up, and I did cut a little piece of burlap and put around that inner bow, the striped one, but you'll see, but I didn't add the footage. I thought I was recording and I wasn't. Anyhow, go ahead and put a couple of zip ties through the very back loop and zip tie that on, and then position your plaque, turn it over, and start stapling it. And make sure you use small enough staples that it's not going to staple through to the front. Add as many staples as you need to securely attach that plaque. Cut the extra zip tie and twine off of your bow. And I did add some hot glue in a few places to make sure my ribbon didn't droop. And you can see how I added the burlap to the middle, and then this is how it turned out. You guys, I am so proud of this wreath. It's like my favorite one I've ever made, and it was pretty simple, and I just love all the colors and how it turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you're liking what you're seeing, then please subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. Really does help my channel. Our fourth DIY is going to be using these wooden slats you can get at Dollar Tree, but I couldn't find them and I saw them at Walmart. They're just a little thicker, but you can use either one. I'm going to go ahead and line up 4 of these plaques horizontally or vertically side by side and glue them with some wood glue and hot glue. Make sure you wipe off any excess glue that comes out because I'm going to stain mine, but you can paint yours whatever you want to do. You're going to want to make 2 sets of 4 wood slats. Then you're going to want to do 2 more sets of 3 vertically. I done mine horizontally, and it was a little more challenging to do, so I done like 2.5 horizontally. You'll see. Here it is. Just do 3, vertically. I had to measure and cut one of mine in like half, and then glue them together, and it'll just be a lot easier if you do it the other way. I then went ahead and added some craft sticks to each one of the sides for added support and stability. I used the same wood glue, hot glue combination to glue each of the 4 sides together. I used the wooden squares from Dollar Tree for added support in each of the 4 corners of the box. Be sure to wipe away any excess glue that seeps out the side, especially if you're going to stain your box. I just want to thank you guys so much for watching the video thus far. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button. It really does help YouTube notice me a little more, and that means I get to keep doing this. So I love you guys, and please keep watching. For the bottom of the box, I used a piece of a Dollar Tree sign, and I cut it down, and I don't think I filmed that part, but that's what I did use. I'm going to flip the box over and attach the piece of Dollar Tree sign. I'm just going to use wood glue and hot glue once again. The wood glue mainly on the outside and hot glue on all 4 of the squares. Then attach your sign to the bottom and you have a box. Since we're not going to see the inside of the box too much, I did go ahead and add hot glue along the inside rim of the box on the bottom to help, attach the sign a little more. Then I'm going to go ahead and sand everything down. Be careful, don't use too harsh of a grit of sandpaper because I did scratch my box up a bit. And it shows through the stain, so be careful. To stain the box, I used a small piece of cheesecloth in the color Dark Walnut from Minwax. Just go in the same up and down motion and you'll get a beautiful finish. Next, I cut down some craft sticks to the size of my box, gave them a coat of Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, and then we're going to use hot glue and wood glue to frame out the box. I also didn't get on film, but I used some burlap trim to frame out the top and bottom, and that part's optional, but it's pretty simple. Next, I used some ink Waverly chalk paint to paint the outside edge or like a frame around this wooden slat. And then I'm going to let that dry and do a coat of Mod Podge so I can add this printable. I'll make sure that I link all these printables in the description box below so you guys can have them. I print them out on cardstock and it seems to do well, but you can use printer paper too, or tissue paper even, After that, I done a coat of Mod Podge, and this is where I messed up. I didn't let it dry, I distressed it, and then it all smeared, and I didn't like how it turned out, but I wanted to leave it in. So, anyhow, since I didn't like it, I just used the glue dots from Dollar Tree to attach it to the front so I could take it off anytime I wanted. Then I stuffed some Walmart bags down in the bottom and added the greenery and a couple of floral picks from Walmart, and this is how it turned out. It did look better with the florals, but I also took the plaque off and I loved this look as well with the magazines. It ends up being a pretty big size. Our next and final DIY is these little coasters, and they can be used on like tiered trays or in a vignette. They turn out so pretty. I'm just going to use these stamps from Dollar Tree and some celery chalk paint from Waverly. I do a coat and I use a little detail brush to get on the inside. So I make sure I coat the whole thing on the inside, the back, everything. I'm going to dry it and then wrap up some pieces of lavender that I got from Walmart. I love their florals. They're cheap and they're high quality. I'm just going to wrap it up with some jute, add some hot glue, and cut that off. I placed that down to see how it would look, and then I'm going to get my stamps out from Dollar Tree and see what a couple of these images would look like. I'm going to do a test stamp on a piece of paper, and then just be careful and, well, you can paint over it. If you mess up, paint over it, and it's no big deal. Look how pretty these stamps go on. I mean, they're from the Dollar Tree and they're really nice. I just added beautiful and then a couple of these butterflies, and then I'm going to distress it, sand it down, and then use the ink pad also to just distress the edges of the, coaster. Then I'm going to add some twine in an X pattern and then turn it over, tie it, and cut off the excess. Then tack it down with some hot glue. I'm making these in like a set, so I just used Rust-Oleum's linen white chalk paint on this one. Then I'm going to add my stamps, put my stamping block down, and then add my ink, and then transfer my image. I'm going to use the same lavender flowers that I used, wrap them up with the twine, add a little hot glue, and then cut off the excess, glue it down to my coaster. And it says, oh, also added some twine on the very bottom in an X pattern. Then I just flipped that over and hot glued a little bead of hot glue down, smashed my twine in there and cut off the excess. Oh, I also distressed this one as well using that ink pad, and it says, have a nice day, beautiful. Oh, it's so cute. They're pretty. I loved it. This is a quick, simple, easy DIY, yet looks beautiful any way you want to display them. Thank you so much for watching. I am so happy to have you guys. And before you leave, don't forget, subscribe, like, share, and I'm on Instagram. I'll see you over there. Bye, guys.